Hello. So let's talk about the immigration cases, specifically the one in Maryland, but all of them really. So they need to subpoena the guy who they say they can't get, and send the marshals to pick him up, just so the court can hear from him directly. Actually, all five plaintiffs, they need the court needs to issue a subpoena to get their side of the story, and have them physically brought to the court, which solves the entire problem for them. And it also solves that they can get them there, and the U.S. Marshals can go get them. If the Justice Department lawyer gets in the way of that, then they can hold the Justice Department lawyer in contempt. Lock him up. Then they can subpoena the president's Homeland Security czar, because they need to find out exactly why they're being told that these guys can't be gotten. If he doesn't show up, send the marshals for him, put him in jail. It's easy enough, it's legal, and maybe he'll show up. Maybe he won't. Dragging him into court, though, would be fun. And then dragging him and putting him in DC jail would be even more fun. So, because there's nothing that stops him from doing that. In fact, he's not above the law. And then get Trump. Drag his ass into jail or into court. Say, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, tell us what you know, or we're going to hold you in contempt. And if he says no, say, well, okay. Or if he doesn't show up, he won't show up. So then you issue an arrest warrant. And this is the part that's important. You issue a bench warrant for Trump, and then you send a then the clerk of the court sends a subpoena or a bench warrant to the Secret Service to have him brought there. And then you have then the Secret Service might bring him, because there's nothing that prevents them from having to do that. He's a protectee, but they're law enforcement officers. They have to honor the court. And if it's challenged, and if then it goes up and higher. Although, yeah, it goes up and higher. And then the decision gets discussed. Can the President of the United States, in a civil matter, not be subpoenaed? And the answer is the President of the United States can be subpoenaed. He can be made to show up. But it brings up, can he be held in contempt, though, if he doesn't show up, if he doesn't cooperate? The answer is yes. He can be held in contempt. It's not above the law. Trump v. Vance. The Chief Justice wrote the opinion. So he can actually be brought, not in chains, but, brought by the Secret Service against his will, or the marshals against his will, or both, into court. And then held in contempt. That's the fun part. You take him to some kind of jail, because again, the mechanics are easy. The clerk sends the Secret Service a note, and by the way, if the government doesn't honor the subpoena, then you take Pam Bondi, you have her come, and if she doesn't come, you get her. You say, okay, we're going to send a subpoena. We're going to arrest you if you don't come. And then and if she doesn't, you hold her in contempt. You get a bench warrant, you bring her in and say, okay, do this thing. Let the federal marshals go and get this person. And they'll do that. They'll have to. And if they don't let you, just hold them in contempt. It's contempt of court is how you get this thing done. You hold the federal officer who won't obey a lawful subpoena in contempt of court, which involves jail, locking the person up until they decide to cooperate with the court. It's the same thing as all of it. So now, why is this important to do? To get the president to cooperate? Well, I mean, first he knows he's not above the law because of Trump versus Vance. Secondly, because contempt of court involves a president going to jail, this gives the court the opportunity to say, and by the way, then you can say, we have to have criminal proceedings. In which case, then they can say a special prosecutor is required. The court might be able to order it. I think that they would have to tell Van Bondi she has to appoint a special prosecutor. Now or have the court who is in charge of Judge Chutkin, have her appoint a special prosecutor, or have her order the appointment of a special prosecutor. This sounds far-fetched, but the court needs an opportunity to specifically rule on the special counsel, the Office of Legal Counsel policy, which is unconstitutional. But the Justice Department, including the special counsel, will not challenge it because it's a DOD policy and he's bound by DOD policy. But the court is not bound. The court just needs somebody to say, we challenge this. And it can be done in a civil matter. Then they can ask for criminal contempt. Or the judge can say, this needs to be handled criminal, because this court will not abide by criminal contempt, and then a special prosecutor to consider the motion would have to be put in. And as part of that, if the president can be held in criminal contempt, that reopens U.S. v. Trump. And most importantly, it provides a venue, again, to have the court forcefully rule on the DOJ policy that a president cannot be prosecuted. That is the key part of this whole thing. Because if the president can be prosecuted, then a special counsel has to be reappointed. Jack Smith has to be called back to work, essentially. And his people have to be called back to work. And the prosecution, because prosecution was suspended with prejudice, then the case goes on. Then you have jury selection. So, and the motions continue and all that. Because the only thing that's keeping the special prosecutor from working is that provision. Now, the other part of this is that this gets Trump into the habit of complying, because those of the legal profession who wish to talk about this, and I'm going to post it to the share this with members of the legal profession. If this is debated, then rather than just have it be called into the usual, well, who's this guy? Why don't we listen to him? Because it's the reality of the law, or the potential reality of the law. It should be discussed. Say something 3 times, like Trump can be arrested, or can Trump be arrested, and it opens the ball of wax. Again, if that possibility is brought up, then suddenly Trump decides has to face the fact that he's not an absolute ruler. He has to abide by court orders, and will then quit making these idiot executive orders, and maybe find an office of a White House Counsel who will tell him what he cannot do, because he needs that. And that's the brakes that he didn't like, that were taken off. So that brake needs to be put on. And if it's not put on, then these issues need to be adjudicated. So, we need an adult in the room, a lawyer who will tell the president, no, you can't do that. But to do that, you have to give him the sense that he can be brought to court and held in contempt, or just brought to court, and that's going to be adjudicated, and adjudicating that means that he's able to be prosecuted. You set the ball into motion to that question of whether the court can say the DOJ policy is not to be honored, because that holds the whole thing. That is a sort of Damocles. So Trump can either surrender that motion, or surrender himself to Jack Smith. Either one. So, yeah, as long as it's discussed. That is the big part. It must be discussed. And if Trump doesn't like the fact that I'm making it discussed and goes after me, then I have lawyers. So, and, Trump getting me in revenge, or getting anybody in revenge who's discussing it, well, that allows the court to talk about it, to talk about the underlying issues of whether the President of the United States is prevented from being prosecuted by the Office of Special Counsel, or of Office of Legal Counsel. The DOJ won't raise that question, because if it just wants to raise a question, it can just say no to the policy. It doesn't have to come from court. But if other people say that, make that request, and it becomes before the court, then it's considered and it's vitiated. So Trump, arrest me, make my day. So that, in the nutshell, is why you need to subpoena the gentleman from Maryland who's being held unlawfully, and to tell the Trump president that he is not above the law as far as the courts are concerned. So have at it, people.